Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Boruto anime review. This one's going to be for episode 234. This is of course the second episode of this sort of return to the village hidden in the mist arc that references an arc from very early on in Boruto with Kagura and so on. The ninja swordsman, of course, and then what they're focusing on for this arc seems to be this new sort of pirate clan, the Fanato, and then trying to get their leader Araumi back, and that's kind of what this episode focuses on. So we saw the terrorist attack to sort of set up the breakout. This episode focused on the actual breakout itself, what the Fanato do immediately upon their leader being released, and setting up what our kind of hero characters are planning to do about it. They're the sort of main things that actually happen here. So the breakout goes pretty smoothly, as you would expect, because for the most part the guards aren't really ninjas or shinobi in the prison, and really only Kagura is in any way useful. But even he is somewhat hindered by the fact that he's only using sort of a normal sword. He's not using the sort of ninja swordsman sword that he would usually use, because that's being used by the Kage. And he is given it at the end when he goes on the sort of mission to stop this, so that's good. But it's basically just Kagura's arc here of, it's a bit of an interesting decision for him to be the prison warden. When he's basically kind of in a way destined for greater things. Now we're sort of seeing him beginning to take on that kind of more expected role within the arc. But yeah, we see the sort of water-based, unique jutsus of this group that as they go in to try and get what is revealed to be the sort of main younger guy with the sort of Samihara-esque spear, his father out. And that is Amari. So, the spear is obviously alive, as we learn in this episode, and it's very much like Samihara in that when Boruto uses the Rasengan, it sort of like basically consumes, it eats his chakra, and there's a line of dialogue that sort of notes that, oh, you really like Boruto's chakra, don't you? And you can see that it is this living thing. He also seems to be able to send it out on its own, and that it can float and do stuff, and that like it seemed to eat someone, which was pretty crazy. And there's also the implication that it can just pass or phase through things, and it's kind of like a shark, kind of hunting under the water, but it can just go through places. There's obviously an element of like form changing going on with it, but we don't know the exact details of it. Still, I think it's really cool that they're introducing another one of these sort of living swords. Samihara wasn't explained too much in Naruto Shippuden, original Naruto, in terms of like why it does this, because like a lot of the other specific ninja blades, of course, have sort of like what you'd expect of like they've got an elemental affinity, or it's explosion based, or there's just like a uniqueness to the blade because of its size or something like that. But Samihara and of course this new kind of spear are actually alive. So I really want to know what the situation is with that. Is it something related to like summoning animals, or is it just like a jutsu placed on a normal weapon? I'd like to know a bit more about that, but he's set up to be, I suppose, a powerful opponent that it's going to be interesting to see what they do, because they're setting up like that Amari was captured and it required like a large amount of people to take him out. And he gets the sort of Magneto treatment with his like no water prison. So, I'm guessing they're going to do some crazy stuff by revealing how powerful he is. So it will be interesting to see who they match up in terms of who does Kagura end up going up against, because they're setting up that the leader of the enemy group from the first time we were here in Boruto, he is going to make a return. And Boruto doesn't immediately seem like... They're setting up him, I suppose, versus the sun potentially Boruto versus the Sun, just because the living sword spear seems to like him. So that would leave Kagura maybe to face the leader. That would be an interesting one. But it depends on what exact way they go, because they could also have the Mizukage do it, or so on. So there's that. They have a sensory ninja with them, the clan, where they reveal that he can do this jutsu where he sends water out and he can sort of look through it, which I thought was a really interesting idea, that this group is all about the ocean. So the idea that their sensory thing is sort of send water somewhere, and by connecting through the water you can see wherever the water is. That's kind of a cool jutsu. It seems to put a lot of strain on his body, but it worked. And then, you know, they get him out, no real problem. And then the really, I suppose, interesting thing, the kind of brutal attack that they do is that, oh, we need to sort of like rehydrate you, father. So instead of the guy going to get water, they're just like, oh, no, we're good. We've got the guard here, and we know the body is like a large amount percentage water. So they just take his water and rehydrate him, and he gets like twice as big. So his character design completely changes, but he definitely looks like a threat, and I'm very intrigued to see what level he's at. I'm guessing he's just crazy with water style, but I wouldn't be surprised if they introduce some sort of a Kekkei Genkai type thing, that he's just like, he's got like, you know, ice style that he can use really crazy or something like that. But again, waiting to see why he needed the super crazy containment prison, that water can't go anywhere near this guy, but other prisoners who also would be good at water style are fine. So that's one of the things I'm waiting for. They specifically kept the father out of the action, which I guess is a setup for that as well. Because for the most part, like, there wasn't a ton of action here. The basic fight we had was just that the Sun's living spear broke Kagura's like normal sword. Kagura blocked an attack with a kind of solid water kind of defensive jutsu, and then the Sun used a very sort of power of the ocean style water style attack to break it down. Which I like the contrast there of Kagura using a sort of very exact, precise water style jutsu, and then the whole point of the Fanato clan is that they're very much the uncompromising, chaotic power of the ocean. Why would you ever try to control it and turn it into a wall when you can just have a raging torrent? So that, stylistically for their sort of ideology, definitely fits. Once they're out, they immediately present the idea that they start to raid nearby islands, and I suppose going back to their pirating ways, which immediately connects us once again to the previous kind of what we were doing just before this episode, which is that the Denki team episode where they went to the island with the robots is actually connected to this arc. So I suppose this is technically in a way the third episode, and they're bringing that back into play because they've gone to raid the island that Denki and everyone are on, which prompts what like Sarada, Boruto and everyone are going to need to do. Now, Kagura needs to go there as well because he's, I suppose, the warden. He needs to get them back into his prison. And so they go to see the Mizukage, who allows Kagura to bring some subordinates with him on this mission. He gives him the ninja blade, and we get the reveal that Team 7 plus Kagura and then the three sort of members of the new ninja swordsmen are who he feels can be rehabilitated are coming with them. So this is what we're doing here. I was wondering, like, are they going to break them out as well? They seemed like, ooh, if we get out, we're going to cause some chaos. So they're definitely teasing the idea that they're going to be up to no good as we go through this. But the fact that Kagura believes in them, I think means they'll do more with their characters. In that I think we will get to a point where we actually maybe do have a group of ninja swordsmen that is actually on side for once. So that'll be interesting to see. At least it creates a bit of a dynamic going forward where we're going up against a whole pirate group. So we need more than just Team 7. Team 7 plus Kagura. So at least we have like what, 9 people here. Plus Denki and his team are going to be involved as well, because we see them in the preview for next time out. So that's like a good like 9-10 plus Shinobi, and going up against an entire pirate army. That seems like it could be a decent setup, especially if the leader of them, Amari, is as powerful as we think. So that was most of the episode. Again, we're still waiting to see the full sort of scope of this, in that, is it just going to be very simple of big battle on the island, everyone kind of breaks off into the different fights, and we come to some sort of resolution with a bit of development for Kagura, confirm that we're rehabilitating the other ninja swordsman, but then they're also setting up that the previous leader will potentially come back into things, maybe, because he was name dropped in the previous episode. But for now, I think the thing I'm most hyped for is to see the power of the guy that just broke out, because that's what they've been kind of building to after just how crazy his containment is. So solid sort of next stage of the arc here, but I'm definitely waiting for the bigger things to happen here. But there was some nice setup in this episode. So in the comments, let me know what your thoughts were on this episode. But that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.